Hello, everybody. I'm Dom Runa, and the NYR Zone Podcast starts right now. Everybody, welcome inside this week's edition of the NYR Zone Podcast, our first episode since January 6th due to the bye week for the Rangers and the NHL. A lot has gone down since that bye week. Some good, some bad, maybe mostly bad. But prior to the week, we had a very interesting segue that goes on. The Rangers were 2-3-0 since we last spoke. It all started with a hat trick from Michael Grabner and the Rangers' 5-4 victory over the Columbus Blue Jackets. And it was a very interesting scenario going into that game, mainly due to, in part, because Columbus was winners of 16 out of their last 17 games. Columbus lost their first game since November 26th to the Washington Capitals 5-0. Sergei Bobrovsky did not start that game for Columbus against the Rangers. Curtis McElhinney did. And it was a very interesting game. Things did not really start well for the Rangers. Marcus Nutivara put the Columbus Blue Jackets on the board from a shot from the point that got through Lundqvist somehow. And basically the Rangers were trailing down with 1-0 within the first 2 minutes for the 9th time this season, where they've allowed a goal in the first 2 minutes and 2 seconds of a game. I'm kind of interested to see those numbers in the first 5 minutes of a game. So that will probably be probably worse, because always, especially how they've been playing lately. Then Ryan McDonagh took a penalty, your best penalty killer in the penalty box against the NHL's best power play. That's not going to bode very well. Columbus put another goal in the back of the net, 2-0 after Sam Gagner found Cam Atkinson. 2-0 Columbus. Remember when Cam Atkinson was rumored to be coming to the Rangers from Ryan Callahan? That was a very interesting time. Never really happened. But what we can do about that? So then the Rangers decided, you know what, it's time to answer back. And Oscar Lindberg did just that. Lindberg scored his first of the season, putting the Rangers within one. It's 2-1 after a midway point of the first period. Then Kevin Klein continued his downfall of the season and pretty much said, you know what, here you go, Columbus, take the puck and put it in the back of the net. He turned the puck over behind his net to Sam Gagner, who found Scotty Hartnell, and Columbus was up by 2 going into the second period. The second period, we got to see how good Michael Grabner really is this season. His speed kills, literally. He had created a scoring chance using his speed. He flew by the Blue Jackets' defense, found himself alone on Curtis McElhinney, beat him on the glove side, bringing the Rangers back to within 2 goals. It was 4-2. Then the Rangers found themselves on the power play, and nothing really generated from there. So later on, the Rangers found themselves on another power play opportunity, and Adam Clendening would put the puck in the back of the net, making it 4-3. His first goal as a New York Ranger. So that would be very interesting to see if they can come back and win this game, trailing by 3 going into the third period. Then later on in the period, Clendening took a shot from the point that was deflected off of Michael Grabner's skate. Tie game, 4-4. The goal originally went to Clendening. It was changed the next day, or a couple days later. I'm not quite sure. So the Rangers found a way to tie the game. And remember what happened last time in Columbus? The Rangers tied the game, found themselves on a power play, turned the puck over at the blue line, and then bam, Columbus scored in a 2-0 to beat the Rangers earlier this season. But that was not the case tonight. With 16.5 seconds in regulation, Michael Grabner found himself on another breakaway, beating McElhinney, putting the Rangers up 5-4. They held on and won a game that they had no business winning, and continued their outstanding play on the road. So the Rangers won that game 5-4 going into their bye week. It was a very fun game to go into the bye week with, but not really how you wanted them to be playing. There was just really big adjustments that had to be made. They can't allow a goal in the first 2 minutes. They needed to put together a more consistent defensive game. And that kind of did come back to bite them after the break. Now, during the break, actually even prior to the break, Stephen McDonald, longtime Ranger fan hero in New York City, was in the hospital after suffering a heart attack. And during the bye week, he passed away. And the Rangers did not play a game until the 13th against the Toronto Maple Leafs, the day where McDonald's funeral was and when they buried him. And just a great showing from everyone around the city. He really was a hero. And just how he forgave his attacker is just something that we all really need to look at. And, one of the things that I found very, very interesting and about it, and just to prove how much of a hero and how much of a role model he really is for everybody, even though he is gone. Al Shotwick was interviewing his son Connor in between periods in the game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I was at the Garden. They ended up showing that interview on Garden Vision later on and during the intermission. And one thing that Connor said that really stuck with me is that, the doctors told Connor that he was only really supposed to make it past 5 years, not as long as what he did. So that fight that Stephen McDonald showed is something that we should all really, show in our everyday lives. And it was an honor being at that game, even though the Rangers ended up losing that game. I will say this: that was probably the greatest moment I've seen at a sporting event. And this is someone who's gone to a countless number of baseball games, a countless number of hockey games, and a few basketball games professionally. I don't think I've seen love and support like that at all. I mean, the crowd, myself included, we were, standing and clapping from the time the commercial started after they showed a tribute video until puck drop. And we didn't want to stop clapping. So that was something that I found absolutely amazing, and everybody on the ice was clapping. The rest were clapping. You could see his wife and Steve McDonald's wife and his son. They were just filled up with emotion. I don't think they were expecting that type of ovation at all. I really wasn't at first, and I knew it was going to be special when Joe Tollison, the PA announcer at the Garden, asked to have a moment of silence first before giving Stephen McDonald an applause. There was a moment of silence. It was just an applause straight out. So I knew something was going to be special. But down to that game, Friday the 13th against the Toronto Maple Leafs, not a very solid outing from the Rangers. Their special teams came back to haunt them. They lost 4-1 to the Maple Leafs at the Garden the night that they honored Stephen McDonald. The game was, it was good at times. Toronto went up 2-0. Then Chris Kreider made it 2-1. And the Garden, the crowd was in it. I think that was the most packed I've seen a game that I've been to since the playoff game I went to back in 2014-15 season against the Lightning. So that was the energy, and there was great. Once it was a one-goal game, the crowd was into it. They were into it from the puck drop. I guess that's what you get when you go to an Original Six game. But then Lundqvist decided, you know what, I'm gonna go back to the way things were before. I got benched for Ronta for a couple of days, and he gave up a bad goal. Probably the worst goal I think I've seen him give up. I think it was even worse than the goal he gave up from center ice in Buffalo, because at least you can argue that was deflected. But that goal, it was not. That goal should have been stopped, and it was just really bad. So they lost that game 4-2 to the Leafs. My apologies. I have 4-1 written down. JT Miller added a goal later on when it did not really matter, when it was 4-1. Rangers blamed their special teams on that. So kind of an interesting take there. Then the next night, looking for a rebound, they lost 5-3 to the Montreal Canadiens, with them leading at three parts of that game. 3 times in that game, they were up 1-0, up 2-1, and up 3-2. Then all hell broke loose in a span of a minute and 2 seconds, where Montreal scored 3 goals. Antti Raanta started the game, played an outstanding first period, then left the game due to an injury, forcing a cold Henrik Lundqvist to have to come in and play. So that could have been part of it, could not have been. You're not really too sure there. Either way, they lost 5-3. Not a very nice way to lose a game. You never want to lose a game like that. And I was actually kind of hoping that AV was going to throw some fire in there at his team, but he was calm, cool, and collected at the end of the game. And I guess that's kind of what you want in a coach. Part of me misses John Tortorella sometimes, although he's not like that with the Columbus media. He's calmed down with the media a lot. Maybe because New York's such a bigger market than Columbus is. That probably has something to do with it. So then the Rangers had a couple of days off, did not play until Tuesday the 17th against the Dallas Stars. And I watched the third period of this game, and it was a very interesting game in a bad way. The Rangers were down at 1 point, 4-1. Then they got it at 4-2. And then another goal came, 5-2, 5-3. 6-3, 7-3. Lundqvist gives up 7 goals in 2 periods. He gets pulled after 2 periods. Magnus Hellberg comes in because of Antti Ranta's injury. And then the Rangers come out in the third period from what I heard was a completely different team, scoring 3 goals, making it a 1-goal game. And the comeback just fell up short because Lindy Ruff pulled Antti Niemi in the third period after he allowed those 3 goals. I think if Niemi stayed in, the Rangers would have won that game. They didn't deserve to win that game. They didn't deserve to get a point, and they didn't. So good on them not good on them, but they didn't deserve any really good fortune to come out of that game. It was a pathetic effort against a team that you really shouldn't have lost that bad to, who ended up getting shut out from the Islanders, who fired Jack Capuano and hired Doug Weight. So interesting to say the least there. Should not have happened. So not really a good outing there. So the Rangers needed to bounce back against the Toronto Maple Leafs last night, and they did. They got back to somewhat of their structure. They were trying to trying to avoid losing a season-high 4th game in a row, with Henrik Lundqvist allowing 16 goals during that stretch. And they came out pretty well. They dominated play in the first period. They were at one point outshooting Toronto 8-2, and overall outshot them 19-9 in the period. Brady Shea put the Rangers on the board after Matt Zuccarello had a beautiful setup after retrieving the puck from Chris Kreider, who was battling along the boards. Shea had a perfect shot on Freddie Anderson. Rangers up 1-0, team looking good. But then came the mental breakdown from Kevin Klein. Klein got caught out of position, which allowed for a Mitch Marner shot to get over the net, which was an easy shot. He should have gotten it on goal. Did not. Went into the corner. Marner ended up getting it back with the Rangers trying to recover from the misplay from Klein. Then Marner threw the puck in front, went off of Klein right to Tyler Bozak, back of the net, 1-1. So now you're sitting there, I was sitting there at least, wondering how Henrik Lundqvist and this team that has been playing very shaky was going to respond to this. And they responded well. Pavel Buchnevich, who's back. I'm sure most of you know that. I'll get into the injury report a little bit later. But Pavel Buchnevich put the Rangers ahead 2-1. They would not look back from there. Buchnevich now has an 8-game point streak, 6 points since returning in 4 games from his back injury after missing 27 games. He has 14 points in 14 games. If this kid stayed healthy, he'd probably be in discussion for Rookie of the Year. He's having a great season, and injury is really going to hurt him there. He's probably one of the Rangers' best rookies. I think he's tied up there with Brady Shea for the 1-2. Jimmy Vesey won Rookie of the Year in our poll. He's kind of gone off on a little dry spell of late. Interesting there, and I honestly would be okay if they traded Jimmy Vesey at the deadline for a piece, but that's something to talk about as the deadline gets closer. Later on in the period, the Rangers got lucky after Mitch Marner shot on a breakaway went wide, definitely going in the net. Lundqvist was down and out. Puck trickled wide. Clendening got the puck, found Kevin Hayes, who fed JT Miller, who shot went off a former Ranger Matt Hunwick's helmet and into the back of the net, putting the Rangers up 3-1. And then the Rangers found themselves on the power play a couple of times where they could seal this game, but they didn't. They had a rough time scoring on the power play, which was the same thing they did against Toronto at home again in the Garden. Toronto has a great power play and a great penalty kill, and it showed it at the Garden, but not last night. The penalty kill was outstanding for Toronto. Power play did not show up for Toronto. Clendening was in front of his net, and Zach Hyman with an outstanding back check on Clendening, who turned the puck over. A couple of dekes on Lundqvist, put up the Maple Leafs within one. And the kind of back check that Hyman put on Clendening is what we see from Jesper Fast. Just wanted to throw that out there. We see that from Fast on a nightly basis, but definitely does not get appreciated. Just throwing that out there. But then the Rangers, Michael Grabner, turned on another gear, scoring 2 more goals, put the Leafs on a power play, and Michael Grabner's speed was evident all night. He had 2 breakaways that drew 2 penalties, and while on the penalty kill, Kevin Hayes, the beautiful pass to him, put Grabner alone and Freddie Anderson. Grabner beat Anderson, put the Rangers up 4-2. Mike Babcock would pull Anderson with about 5 minutes remaining in regulation, and Grabner would put the empty netter in there. 5-2, Grabner scores twice. Lundqvist makes 23 saves. Rangers win 5-2. All is good in Rangerland today. Injury updates really quickly. Antti Raanta had a lower body injury. He's out 7 to 10 days. Won't be back until after the All-Star break. Same thing with Jesper Fast. Matt Pumpel has a concussion. He's getting very close to being cleared to practice with the team. Mark Stahl has a concussion as well. They're still waiting for him to be cleared as well. Rangers did have some injury returns, and were almost 100% healthy. We'll get those numbers for you. Mika Zibanejad had 2 goals in his first game back against the Dallas Stars. Buchnevich has 6 points in the 4 games back and an 8-game point streak. Since returning, Rick Nash has 4 points, 1 goal, 3 assists. So nice to see him back and playing well as well. So now before we end this week's edition, let's take a quick look at the standings in the Eastern Conference. In the Metropolitan Division, the best division in hockey. Washington has overthrown Columbus for first place in the division at 39-6 with 66 points. Columbus is right behind him at 30-10-4 with 64 points. Then there's Pittsburgh, 28-11-5, 61 points. And the Rangers are in 4th place in a wild card spot with 59 points, 29-16-1. And you know what? The thing is, I think the Rangers are better off finishing the season as a wild card team. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I don't want to face Pittsburgh in the first round of the playoffs because it's an automatic knockout. You pretty much know it. The Rangers don't match up well against Pittsburgh. Washington, they kind of do better with. Columbus, they can handle, I think. But yeah, so then you have Philadelphia behind them at 50 points. Carolina is right back in the mix with 49. New Jersey has 47 points, and the Islanders with 44 points after just firing Jack Capuano and hiring Doug Waite as the interim head coach. The Islanders are a point above the Buffalo Sabres for last place in the Eastern Conference, and so far away from the worst team in the NHL, the Colorado Avalanche. Henrik Lundqvist looked pretty well in his return. Well, not his return, but in the game the other night. We got to hope that it's only the start of a couple of good things for him. We'll see where things go with that. The Rangers are back in action Sunday against the Detroit Red Wings for the final time in Detroit at the Joe, which will be closing after this season. Detroit will be moving into a new arena. So we'll get one more final look at the Joe. That game's at 12:30. We'll be able to be seen on an NBC. Thank you for listening to this week's edition of the NYR Zone Podcast. Next week, we will, as the trade deadline gets closer, we will take a look at the Rangers' needs, which is very obvious, and see what's out there, especially with expansion upcoming. And would you rather see a guy like Derek Stepan or Rick Nash get traded? That's something we will look at there. Thank you for listening. As always, we'll be back for a regular scheduled time next week on a Friday. The time will be around 2:30. So thank you for listening once again. Have a great week and go Rangers.